Robert Greene nearly died from a stroke in 2018, losing control of half his body, yet he discovered something profound about real power that completely changes how we think about confidence in 2025. While everyone's faking it on Instagram and LinkedIn, Greene learned that true influence comes from a place most people are terrified to access. Today he's sharing how to build unshakable confidence when AI is replacing jobs, dating happens through screens, and your boss judges you through a Zoom square. What he told me about modern seduction will change how you show up in every room, virtual or real. But first, you need to understand what happened when everything he thought he knew about power got stripped away. The stroke that rewired power. One morning, Greene woke up and half his body didn't work. His left arm hung lifeless. His face drooped. He couldn't form words properly. The man who wrote the definitive guides on power and seduction suddenly couldn't control his own body. But that stroke revealed something crucial about influence that most people completely miss. Greene spent months relearning movement and speech, which taught him that authenticity trumps performance and influence. He couldn't type. He couldn't write by hand. He couldn't even hold a phone properly. For someone whose entire identity revolved around intellectual control and strategic thinking, this felt like death. But something unexpected started happening during those endless hours of forced stillness. He began noticing patterns in how people responded to his vulnerability that contradicted everything he thought he knew about power. When nurses and doctors interacted with him, the ones who showed genuine presence and authentic concern created instant connection. The ones who performed competence without heart felt hollow. When friends visited, the conversations that mattered most weren't about his books or achievements. They were about fear, uncertainty, and what actually sustains you when everything you thought defined you gets stripped away. Greene realized he was experiencing firsthand what millions of people feel every day in 2025, a kind of paralysis that has nothing to do with medical conditions. Think about your last Zoom meeting. How many people seem genuinely present versus going through the motions? Consider your social media feed. How much of what you see feels authentic versus performed? We're living through a collective version of what Greene experienced individually. Technology was supposed to connect us, but most people feel more isolated than ever. Social media was supposed to give everyone a voice, but most people feel invisible. Remote work was supposed to provide freedom, but many feel like they're disappearing. Greene's physical paralysis became a window into understanding digital age paralysis. When you can't rely on traditional markers of authority, your physical presence, your ability to command a room, your impressive office or expensive clothes, what actually creates influence. When half your interactions happen through screens, and the other half feel filtered through comparison and performance anxiety, where does genuine confidence come from? The answer Greene discovered challenges everything we've been taught about building power and attraction. During recovery, he had to use voice-to-text software because typing was impossible. This forced adaptation reshaped his entire approach to presence. The vulnerability he couldn't hide, the slight uncertainty from his stroke, actually made people lean in closer rather than pull away. His forced vulnerability became a source of magnetic authenticity that traditional power displays never achieved. This observation led to a bigger realization. In our current digital landscape, the people who command real attention aren't the ones performing strength. They're the ones who have learned to channel uncertainty into magnetic presence. Think about the content creators who hold your attention versus those who feel desperate for it. The difference isn't confidence in the traditional sense. It's comfort with not knowing, with being seen as human rather than superhuman. Greene started testing this theory as he regained his abilities. Instead of hiding his limitations, he acknowledged them strategically. Instead of pretending nothing had changed, he let people see how the experience had shifted his perspective. The response was unlike anything he'd experienced before. People who had never engaged with his work started reaching out. Long-term fans connected with him more deeply. Speaking opportunities increased rather than decreased. But here's where it gets interesting for everyone watching this. Greene's stroke recovery happened to coincide with massive cultural shifts that most people are still struggling to navigate. The pandemic forced everyone into digital-first interactions. Dating apps trained us to make split-second judgments about human worth. Social media algorithms reward performance over authenticity. AI tools make us question our own value and capabilities. Remote work leaves us feeling like replaceable components in invisible machines. These changes created new forms of vulnerability that previous generations never had to handle. Your grandmother never worried about whether her Zoom lighting made her look competent. Your grandfather never had to compete with AI for job security. Your parents never had to maintain romantic interest through carefully curated social media presence. These are uniquely modern challenges that require completely different approaches to building confidence and influence. What Greene realized during his recovery applies directly to these digital age struggles. The instinct most people have is to fight against technological limitations and social media pressures by becoming more controlling, more performative, more strategic in the old-school sense. They study traditional body language to dominate Zoom calls. They analyze dating app algorithms to optimize their matches. They post more frequently and more perfectly to beat social media engagement drops. But this approach backfires because it misses the fundamental shift in how influence actually works now. In a world where everyone is performing competence, the people who admit uncertainty stand out. In an environment where everyone is curating perfection, the people who show genuine struggle create deeper connections. When everyone is trying to appear superhuman, the people who embrace being human become magnetic. This isn't about strategic vulnerability or calculated authenticity tactics that savvy people can spot immediately. It's about accepting that the rules of power and attraction have fundamentally changed, and that change creates enormous opportunity for people willing to adapt. The ancient principles Greene wrote about in his earlier books still apply, but they express differently in our current context. Seduction in 2025 isn't about peacocking on dating apps or optimizing your LinkedIn presence. It's about creating genuine curiosity in environments where everyone expects immediate gratification. Confidence in the age of AI isn't about proving you're irreplaceable. It's about finding your authentic value in ways that can't be automated. Power in remote work isn't about commanding virtual rooms. It's about creating presence that translates through any medium. Greene's stroke didn't diminish his influence. It revealed where real influence has always lived, and where it lives now more than ever. Not in the performance of strength, but in the authentic navigation of uncertainty. Not in the denial of limitation, but in the strategic acceptance of what you can and cannot control. Not in the fight against digital age challenges, but in the skillful adaptation to environments our ancestors never imagined. The techniques he discovered during recovery work, whether you're trying to build romantic attraction, establish authority in virtual meetings, or maintain confidence when AI threatens your career. But to understand how these principles apply to modern romance, you need to see how dramatically the dating landscape has shifted in ways that make traditional approaches completely obsolete. Why TikTok seduction beats dating apps? With only around 2.5% of matches forming lasting relationships on dating apps, according to research, something fundamental has broken in how we approach modern romance. Meanwhile, people who practice what's called soft launching their relationships through social media content report higher satisfaction rates compared to traditional dating app approaches. The numbers reveal a truth most people refuse to accept. Everything we thought we knew about digital attraction is backwards. Greene saw this shift coming years before the data proved it. While everyone was optimizing their Hinge profiles and crafting perfect opening messages, he was studying something far more powerful: the art of creating curiosity through strategic reveals. Modern seduction isn't about swiping right on the perfect person. It's about becoming the person others can't stop thinking about, even when they can't fully see you. Think about how soft launching actually works. Instead of posting obvious couple photos with faces and relationship status updates, successful people drop hints. A second coffee cup on the counter, 2 wine glasses on a restaurant table, a mysterious hand reaching for the aux cord in a car video. The audience sees these glimpses and their imagination fills in the gaps. Their brain creates a story more compelling than any explicit reveal could provide. This taps into something ancient about human psychology. Before dating apps existed, courtship required patience. You might catch glimpses of someone at church or community gatherings. You'd notice them from across a room. You'd wonder about them for weeks before getting a chance to actually speak. That wondering, that curiosity, that gradual building of interest, those feelings were the foundation of genuine attraction. Dating apps eliminated all of that mystery and replaced it with instant judgment based on 5 photos and a bio. TikTok's algorithm accidentally recreated what human courtship evolved to reward. The platform favors creators who can hold attention across multiple videos. You might watch someone's content for weeks before you see their full face clearly. You get invested in their story, their personality, their aesthetic choices. By the time you see them completely, you already feel connected. The algorithm rewards the same gradual revelation that made courtship work for thousands of years. The most successful content creators understand this instinctively. They never reveal everything at once. Look at the accounts that hold your attention versus those that feel desperate for it. The magnetic ones show you their hands making coffee, their voice explaining something interesting, their aesthetic sense through outfit choices or room decor. They let you hear them laugh without always seeing their face. They create investment before revelation. This works because we live in an age of total oversharing. Everyone posts their full life story in their Instagram bio. People share their exact location, their relationship status, their political opinions, their breakfast choices. When everyone is shouting their entire existence into the void, the people who whisper become irresistible. Withholding information has become the ultimate aphrodisiac precisely because so few people understand how to do it anymore. Greene calls this strategic withdrawal, and it applies to social media presence in ways that would have seemed impossible 10 years ago. The power of going offline strategically creates scarcity. When someone posts constantly and then disappears for a few days, people notice. When someone usually shares everything and then posts something mysterious, people pay attention. The absence becomes more powerful than the presence. Consider the people who built massive romantic interest through mysterious social media presence. There's the creator who gained millions of followers by only showing their hands while cooking elaborate meals. Their voice became famous, their aesthetic unmistakable, but their face remained hidden for months. When they finally did a face reveal, the response was overwhelming, not just because they were attractive, but because the audience had already fallen for their personality, their skills, their mysterious energy. Another case study involves someone who posted relationship content for a year without ever showing their partner's face. Glimpses of shared activities, conversations overheard in the background, evidence of a happy relationship without the typical couple performance. The audience became obsessed with this invisible partner. When they finally appeared in a video, the engagement was massive because people had spent months building their own fantasy of who this person might be. But here's where this knowledge gets dangerous. These techniques work so well that they can easily cross the line from attraction into manipulation. Some people use strategic mystery to hide red flags or avoid genuine intimacy. They create artificial scarcity to keep partners guessing, not because they're naturally mysterious, but because they're using uncertainty as a control mechanism. The difference between healthy mystery and manipulative withholding comes down to intention and authenticity. Healthy soft launching maintains mystery while building genuine connection. You're not hiding who you are, you're revealing yourself gradually in a way that honors both your privacy and your audience's curiosity. Manipulative mystery uses withholding as a power play. It keeps people off balance not to create intrigue, but to maintain control. Learning to tell the difference protects you whether you're using these techniques or someone is using them on you. The specific soft launch technique that creates maximum romantic curiosity without seeming calculated involves what Greene calls authentic restraint. Instead of hiding everything deliberately, you share what feels natural to share while honoring your own privacy instincts. Maybe you're genuinely private about relationships, so you naturally only show glimpses. Maybe you prefer to keep certain aspects of your life sacred, so your mystery comes from genuine boundaries rather than strategic withholding. The key is consistency with your own character. If you're naturally expressive and suddenly become mysterious, people sense the performance. If you're naturally private and suddenly start oversharing, people notice the desperation. But if you find your authentic level of reveal and stick to it, you create the kind of magnetic presence that works across all platforms and interactions. This approach works whether you're single and building romantic interest or in a relationship and maintaining attraction. The principle remains the same. In a world where everyone shows everything immediately, the people who understand pacing and gradual revelation command attention that goes far beyond surface attraction. But soft launching isn't just about romantic relationships. The same principles apply to professional presence, personal branding, and even friendships. The goal isn't to be mysterious for mystery's sake. It's to understand that in our current digital environment, the way you reveal information has become more important than the information itself. Master that timing, and you master a form of influence that most people don't even recognize they're responding to. Yet even as these social media strategies prove their power, a deeper anxiety lurks beneath the surface of our digital lives. The same technology that enables soft launching and strategic mystery is simultaneously making people question their fundamental worth in ways previous generations never experienced. The AI confidence paradox. There's a fear most people won't talk about openly. AI is making us feel incompetent and replaceable in ways we've never experienced before. You sit down to write an email and wonder if ChatGPT could do it better. You prepare for a presentation and realize AI could generate slides faster than you can think. You work on a project and question whether your contribution actually matters when machines can analyze data, write reports, and even create art. This isn't just job insecurity. This is existential doubt about what makes you valuable as a human being. Greene discovered something counterintuitive during his recovery that applies perfectly to AI anxiety. The fear of being replaced by technology isn't really about technology at all. It's revealing our deepest insecurities about authentic value. Most people have built their confidence on being good at things that machines can now do better. Writing well, analyzing information, solving logical problems, remembering facts. When AI excels at these tasks, it forces us to confront an uncomfortable question: what makes us genuinely irreplaceable? The response most people have is fascinating and completely backwards. Instead of leaning into their humanity, they try to become more robotic themselves. They optimize their morning routines like efficiency algorithms. They track every metric of their lives like machines monitoring performance. They try to eliminate emotional responses and make purely logical decisions. They're essentially competing with AI by becoming more like AI, which is guaranteed to fail. Traditional confidence-building advice falls apart completely in this context. The old approach was fake it till you make it. Act like an expert until you become one. Memorize impressive facts and deliver them with authority. Study successful people and copy their behaviors. But you can't fake expertise when everyone has access to ChatGPT. You can't impress people with knowledge they can Google in seconds. You can't copy behaviors that AI can analyze and replicate better than you can perform them. This creates what Greene calls the authenticity imperative. When machines can fake competence perfectly, only genuine competence matters. When AI can generate impressive content on any topic, only authentic insight stands out. When algorithms can optimize everything, only truly human qualities create real value. While AI automates tasks, true influence springs from skills AI can't replicate, such as empathy and intuition, as Greene's insights suggest. Research shows that authentic skills like creativity and emotional intelligence become more critical as AI handles routine tasks. Intuition, the ability to sense what's not being said in a conversation. Emotional intelligence, reading the room and understanding what people actually need versus what they claim to want. Creative risk-taking, making decisions based on incomplete information and artistic vision rather than data optimization. These skills have always been valuable, but now they're becoming the only skills that truly matter. Greene had to adapt his own writing process when AI tools became available. Instead of seeing them as competition, he discovered they could amplify his distinctive voice and insights. He uses AI to handle research tasks and initial drafts, but the strategic thinking, the psychological insights, the ability to connect seemingly unrelated concepts, that remains entirely human. The machine helps with efficiency, but the wisdom comes from decades of studying human nature in ways no algorithm can replicate. This reveals something crucial about AI imposter syndrome. Many people feel fake when they use AI assistants, even when it's enhancing rather than replacing their human judgment. They worry that using these tools somehow diminishes their accomplishments or proves they're not really capable. But this guilt misses the point entirely. Every human generation has used tools to amplify their capabilities. Writers use word processors, accountants use calculators, designers use software. The tool doesn't make the work less human, it frees humans to focus on what only humans can do. The difference between people who thrive with AI assistants and those who crumble comes down to their relationship with uncertainty. Machines excel at certainty. Give them clear parameters and they'll optimize within those constraints perfectly. But the most valuable human work happens in the spaces where the parameters aren't clear, where you have to make judgment calls based on incomplete information, where you need to understand context that isn't explicitly stated, where you have to balance competing priorities that can't be easily quantified. People who are comfortable with not knowing, who can make decisions without perfect information, who can adapt their approach based on subtle feedback, these people find AI liberating. The machine handles the routine work so they can focus on the complex, ambiguous, deeply human challenges. People who need certainty and clear rules to feel confident find AI threatening because it highlights exactly the areas where human judgment is most necessary and most uncertain. Remote workers face these confidence challenges in particularly intense ways. Working from home already makes many people feel invisible and disconnected from their impact. When you add AI tools that can handle many routine tasks, the fear of being easily replaceable becomes overwhelming. You wonder if your boss even notices your contributions when everything happens through screens and digital communications. You question whether your role could be automated or outsourced without anyone missing what you specifically bring to the work. The solution isn't to work harder or longer hours to prove your value. It's not to avoid AI tools and try to compete through pure human effort. It's not to become more machine-like in your approach to productivity and optimization. The solution is to lean into the qualities that make you irreplaceable precisely because they can't be programmed or automated. Your ability to understand office politics and navigate interpersonal dynamics. Your capacity to sense when a client is unhappy, even when they say everything is fine. Your skill at motivating team members through difficult projects based on understanding their individual personalities and concerns. Your talent for seeing opportunities that data analysis misses because they require creative leaps and intuitive connections. These abilities become more valuable, not less, when routine tasks are automated. The specific mindset shift that transforms AI from threat to confidence amplifier involves redefining what expertise means in the modern world. Instead of expertise being about knowing facts or following procedures, expertise becomes about synthesizing information from multiple sources, making connections that aren't obvious, and applying wisdom gained from experience in novel situations. Instead of trying to be the smartest person in the room, you become the person who asks the most insightful questions and helps others think through complex problems. This shift requires accepting that your value doesn't come from what you know, but from how you think. Not from what you can do efficiently, but from what you can do uniquely. Not from competing with machines on their terms, but from excelling at the distinctly human work that becomes more important as routine tasks get automated. When you make this transition, AI stops feeling like competition and starts feeling like the most powerful tool you've ever had access to. The people who understand this distinction are building unshakable confidence, even as others panic about technological displacement. They're not worried about being replaced because they're focused on becoming irreplaceable in ways that matter more than ever. But understanding these principles intellectually is only half the battle. The real test comes when you have to demonstrate this irreplaceable human value through a screen, where most of your professional interactions now happen. Remote power moves that actually work. Virtual meetings expose every weakness in your professional presence, and most people sabotage themselves without realizing it. You slouch during client calls. You stare at your own video instead of looking into the camera. You fidget with objects while your boss speaks. These behaviors seem minor when you're just a small square on a screen, but everyone in that virtual room unconsciously catalogs what they see and makes decisions about your competence based on those observations. Greene's power principles work in virtual environments, but they require completely different execution. Physical presence once meant commanding a room through height and spatial positioning. Virtual presence means commanding attention through strategic framing and camera technique. The fundamentals remain unchanged, but the methods must adapt to screens and compressed video squares. Body language mistakes that destroy virtual authority differ entirely from in-person errors because cameras change what people see and how they interpret it. Glancing at your phone during an in-person meeting might go unnoticed if your overall body language shows engagement. On video, any look away from the camera reads as complete disinterest. Leaning back in your chair might signal confidence in person, but on screen it makes you appear smaller and disengaged. Hand gestures work completely differently through video calls. Movements that feel natural in person can appear erratic when compressed into a small window. Your hands disappear below the frame line, so gestures must happen higher and within a much smaller range. Many people keep their hands completely still, appearing rigid and uncomfortable. Others overcompensate with exaggerated movements that seem desperate for attention. Eye contact becomes the most crucial element of virtual authority, but most people approach it backwards. Looking at someone's face on your screen feels natural, but creates the impression you're looking down or away. Real virtual eye contact means staring directly into your camera lens. This feels unnatural, but creates genuine connection through the screen. The most powerful people in virtual meetings train themselves to speak to the camera as if it's a person, maintaining that direct gaze even when it feels awkward. Zoom square psychology fundamentally changes power dynamics because everyone appears identical in size regardless of actual authority level. A CEO and intern occupy equal screen real estate, eliminating traditional visual hierarchies. Successful people adapt by using their limited frame space strategically. They position themselves to fill the frame without appearing cramped. They use lighting to create depth. In a world of equal-sized squares, the person who appears most intentional commands the most attention. Virtual backgrounds and lighting present counterintuitive challenges where standard advice fails completely. Professional virtual backgrounds often create disconnection that makes people appear less authentic. Real virtual authority comes from controlling your actual environment rather than hiding it. The most influential people show curated glimpses of real spaces that suggest competence without revealing personal details. Camera angles affect psychological impressions more than people realize. Positioning your camera too low makes you appear condescending. Too high makes you seem smaller and less authoritative. The optimal angle places the camera at eye level, creating equal status and direct engagement. This requires adjusting your setup rather than tilting your head, because head positioning affects how confident you appear. Strategic silence works differently in virtual meetings because pauses feel longer through video calls. Audio transmission delays make natural conversation rhythm awkward, so most people rush to fill silence immediately. Well-timed pauses after important points allow those points to land with more impact. Silence before responding makes your eventual answer seem more thoughtful and considered. People who command attention in virtual rooms understand it's not about volume or animation. Audio compression doesn't handle loud voices well, and excessive energy appears desperate. Virtual authority comes from consistency of presence rather than intensity of performance, speaking clearly at a measured pace, maintaining steady camera eye contact, using purposeful gestures within the visible frame, appearing fully present rather than multitasking. Virtual influence in professional settings requires building connection without physical presence through subtle cues that work through screens. This involves mirroring the energy level of people you're speaking with rather than dominating through personality force. It means using visible active listening techniques, nodding appropriately, maintaining engaged expressions, asking follow-up questions that demonstrate you've processed what others said. Reading virtual body language presents unique challenges because you only see shoulders up, but certain signals remain crucial. Facial expressions become more important as the primary visual information. Eye contact patterns reveal whether someone is reading emails or fully focused. Shoulder positioning indicates comfort and confidence. Head movements show agreement, confusion, or disagreement even when people aren't speaking. The specific technique that makes people remember you after meetings ends involves what Greene calls intentional inhabiting of your virtual space. Instead of trying to disappear or minimize your presence to avoid mistakes, you fully occupy your frame and own your participation. This means preparing your environment deliberately rather than hoping nobody notices your surroundings, speaking with purpose rather than filling time. Maintaining consistent energy throughout the entire meeting rather than fading in and out. This works because most people approach virtual meetings defensively, trying to avoid standing out or making mistakes. When you approach them with confidence and intentionality, you create presence that people remember precisely because it contrasts with the tentative, distracted energy most participants bring. You become the person others think of when opportunities arise because you've demonstrated command of attention and respect even through a screen. But mastering virtual presence only solves part of the modern confidence puzzle. These same screens that challenge our professional authority have completely transformed how we approach the most fundamental human connection of all. The death of traditional dating. Dating apps promised to solve loneliness, but created the opposite. Only 2.5% of matches result in long-term relationships, meaning 97.5% of your swipes lead absolutely nowhere meaningful. People report feeling more romantically frustrated than any generation in recorded history. The very tools designed to connect us have created deeper disconnection than we've ever seen before. Greene recognized this catastrophe years before the statistics proved it. Dating apps didn't just change how we meet people, they rewired how we think about human connection entirely. The swipe mechanism trained us to evaluate potential partners like products on a shopping website. 5 seconds to judge someone's entire romantic potential based on carefully curated photos and a handful of written lines. This process destroyed something fundamental about attraction that took millennia to evolve. Real seduction requires time, mystery, and gradual revelation. It involves reading subtle cues, building tension through conversation, and allowing chemistry to develop naturally through shared experiences. Dating apps eliminated all of these elements and replaced them with instant binary decisions. Yes or no, hot or not, swipe right or swipe left. This system killed the psychological processes that create genuine romantic fascination. Swipe culture created a generation that literally cannot handle real-world romantic tension and uncertainty. When you're accustomed to immediate feedback, match or no match, message or silence, hookup or ghost, the slow burn of traditional courtship feels unbearable. Young people report feeling anxious when romantic interest isn't immediately confirmed through digital signals. They don't know how to interpret ambiguous facial expressions, uncertain text response times, or the natural ebb and flow of building attraction over weeks or months. This shows up everywhere in modern relationships. People panic when someone doesn't respond to a text within hours. They interpret normal human complexity as mixed signals that need to be decoded immediately. They expect romantic progression to follow predictable timelines because that's how dating apps train them to think about human connection. The messy, uncertain, gradually unfolding nature of real attraction feels broken to people who learned romance through algorithmic matching. The rise of situationships reflects this inability to handle romantic uncertainty. These undefined connections where people act like couples without calling themselves couples aren't just about commitment issues. They're about a generation that never learned how to navigate the ambiguous middle ground between strangers and partners. Traditional dating had built-in stages: acquaintance, friendship, courtship, exclusive dating, relationship. Each stage had different expectations and boundaries that helped people understand where they stood. Dating apps collapsed all these stages into immediate sexual availability or complete rejection. There's no middle ground, no gradual progression, no space for feelings to develop organically. Situationships fill that void, but they do it poorly because people don't have the skills to communicate about undefined relationships. They end up in romantic limbo because nobody knows how to have conversations about evolving feelings without the structure that traditional dating provided. Social media amplified these problems by creating impossible standards while making everyone feel ordinary. Instagram and TikTok feeds are highlight reels of other people's most attractive moments, most exciting dates, most romantic gestures. People compare their private struggles with everyone else's public performances and conclude they're not attractive enough, interesting enough, or lovable enough to deserve real connection. This creates a vicious cycle where people feel inadequate, but also entitled to perfection in their romantic partners. The psychological comfort of flirting through direct messages versus face-to-face conversations reveals how deeply these digital habits have rewired social skills. Behind a screen, you have time to craft responses, delete awkward comments, and present your most charming self. In person, conversation happens in real time with all the stumbles, misunderstandings, and imperfect moments that make human interaction authentic. People who learned flirtation through text messaging feel exposed and incompetent during actual conversations. Dating app fatigue emerged as users realized these platforms don't actually want you to find lasting love. The business model depends on keeping you single and actively using the app. Success means losing a customer. This creates perverse incentives where apps are designed to provide just enough hope to keep you swiping, but not enough genuine connection to make you delete the app. Users report feeling like hamsters on a wheel, constantly active, but never getting anywhere meaningful. People delete dating apps in frustration, but struggle to find alternatives because traditional social structures for meeting potential partners have largely disappeared. Young people don't go to church, don't have neighborhood communities, don't socialize through extended family networks. Work environments discourage romantic connections. Friend groups are smaller and more isolated. The social infrastructure that supported traditional dating no longer exists for most people. Different generations face completely different challenges navigating this landscape. Gen Z never experienced traditional dating rituals. They don't know how to approach someone at a coffee shop, have extended phone conversations before meeting, or interpret the subtle signals that older generations learn through practice. Millennials get caught between old and new rules in particularly frustrating ways. They remember traditional dating, but feel pressure to adapt to app-based systems that don't align with their values or instincts. Actually replacing traditional dating is a hybrid system that combines the worst aspects of both digital and in-person connection. People meet through apps but try to build relationships through social media stalking and indirect digital communication. They use dating platforms to find people, but expect immediate physical chemistry without the gradual building of attraction that makes chemistry sustainable. They want authentic connection, but only through curated presentations of themselves. This new system requires completely different seduction skills because the old rules don't apply and the new rules haven't been established yet. Success means understanding how to create genuine mystery in an age of total transparency, how to build real intimacy through primarily digital communication, and how to maintain romantic tension when everyone expects immediate gratification. These skills exist, but they're not what anyone taught us about dating or relationships. But the collapse of traditional dating reveals something deeper about how screens have changed us. The same digital habits that destroyed romantic connection are quietly undermining something even more fundamental about how we see ourselves. Building confidence when half your life is screens. Screen-based living fundamentally rewires how you experience your own existence. You wake up and check your phone before your feet hit the floor, spend 8 hours staring at screens for work, then scroll social media until you fall asleep. Your physical presence becomes secondary to your digital representation. You start feeling more real as a profile picture than as a human being walking through actual space. The confidence challenges of the screen age cut deeper than previous generations ever experienced. Your grandmother never worried whether she looked authoritative enough during a phone call because nobody could see her. Your grandfather never had to maintain professional credibility through a webcam while his kids screamed in the background. You're trying to build self-assurance in environments that didn't exist until recently, using skills that nobody taught you because nobody knew these situations would become daily reality. Physical presence used to build confidence naturally through accumulated social proof. You walked into rooms and people noticed you. You shook hands and made eye contact. You occupied space and felt your own substance in relation to others. Now you spend most of your social and professional time as a two-dimensional image in a small rectangle. Your body becomes irrelevant to most interactions. You start feeling disconnected from your own physical existence because it rarely matters for anything important. Social media comparison created a new type of insecurity that didn't exist before humans had access to everyone else's highlight reels. You're not just comparing yourself to people in your immediate community anymore. You're measuring your worst moments against the carefully curated best moments of millions of strangers. Your Tuesday morning anxiety competes with someone's vacation photos from Bali. Your work frustrations get compared to someone else's promotion announcement. Your relationship struggles feel pathetic next to someone's anniversary post. This constant comparison creates what psychologists now call digital dysphoria, feeling like your online self is more real or valuable than your physical self. You spend more time crafting the perfect Instagram story than you do having actual experiences worth sharing. You worry more about how your life looks online than how it feels offline. You measure success by engagement metrics rather than personal satisfaction. Your digital representation becomes more important than your actual existence. Research confirms what most people experience, but don't discuss openly. Social media fuels jealousy and insecurity by encouraging unrealistic comparisons between your private struggles and everyone else's public performances. You see curated content designed to look effortless and spontaneous, but you know how much effort goes into your own posts. This creates a fundamental disconnect, where everyone feels like they're the only ones struggling while everyone else has figured everything out. Greene's confidence-building techniques had to evolve for people whose social proof comes primarily from digital interactions. Traditional approaches assumed you were building confidence through face-to-face relationships, physical accomplishments, and real-world social situations. But when your achievements happen in virtual environments, when your relationships develop through screens, when your social status gets determined by algorithmic engagement, the old methods stop working. Traditional confidence advice like fake it till you make it backfires spectacularly in the age of authentic content and video calls. People can sense performance and desperation more easily through cameras than they could in person. The slight delay in video calls makes nervous energy more obvious. High-definition cameras reveal micro-expressions that might go unnoticed during in-person interactions. Trying to project false confidence through a screen often makes you appear more insecure than admitting uncertainty. The paradox of feeling isolated while being more connected than ever directly impacts self-worth in ways that previous generations never experienced. You have access to more people than any human in history, but most of those connections feel superficial and transactional. You can communicate instantly with anyone anywhere, but most of your conversations happen through brief text exchanges that lack emotional depth. You're surrounded by other people's lives through social media, but you feel like nobody really knows or understands your actual experience. This creates a specific type of loneliness where you're never technically alone, but rarely feel genuinely connected. You're always available to others through various apps and platforms, but you struggle to find people who want to engage with your authentic self rather than your curated online presence. The constant low-level social stimulation prevents deep solitude, but doesn't provide meaningful connection. You end up feeling simultaneously overstimulated and undernourished socially. Building genuine confidence when your achievements are often invisible or virtual requires completely different approaches than traditional methods suggest. Your work might be excellent, but if it happens through remote collaboration, nobody sees you doing it. Your creative projects might be meaningful, but if they exist digitally, they don't feel as substantial as physical creations. Your relationships might be deep, but if they're maintained primarily through text and video calls, they can feel less real than in-person connections. The challenge of maintaining self-esteem when algorithms control who sees your content and validates your worth creates unprecedented psychological pressure. Your confidence becomes dependent on factors completely outside your control. The platform decides whether your post gets shown to 5 people or 5,000. The algorithm determines whether your content gets positive engagement or disappears into digital obscurity. Your sense of worth becomes tied to metrics that fluctuate based on technical factors that have nothing to do with the actual quality of what you create. The specific daily practice that rebuilds confidence in your physical presence and authentic self involves what Greene calls embodied reality anchoring. Every morning before you check any devices, you spend 10 minutes doing something that requires full physical presence and produces tangible results. This might be making coffee with complete attention to the process. It could be doing basic exercises while focusing on how your body feels in space. It might involve writing by hand in a journal, feeling the pen move across paper. The key is engaging with physical reality in ways that remind you of your substantial existence beyond digital representations. You're not trying to become a different person or achieve dramatic transformation. You're simply reconnecting with the fact that you exist in a body, in physical space, independent of how you appear on screens or how others respond to your online presence. This practice works because it grounds your sense of self in something that algorithms can't control and other people can't invalidate. Your physical existence, your immediate sensory experience, your ability to move and think and feel, these remain real regardless of what happens in digital spaces. When you anchor your confidence in embodied reality rather than external validation, you become unshakable in ways that translate to both virtual and physical interactions. But there's something even more powerful happening when you do step away from screens and into physical spaces with other people. Why body language matters more than ever. When you finally occupy physical space with other people, every gesture carries exponential weight because people are starving for authentic human connection. Your body language doesn't just communicate anymore, it creates lasting impressions that determine whether people trust you, want to work with you, or feel attracted to you. The reduced face-to-face interaction over the past few years made people hypersensitive to physical cues when they do occur. We've become like people who lived in darkness, suddenly exposed to bright light. Every movement registers more intensely. Every social signal carries more meaning. When someone finally meets you in person after months of video calls, they notice everything: how you walk into a room, how you shake hands. Whether you maintain comfortable eye contact or glance away nervously, these details create powerful first impressions because they're rare and therefore precious. Most people have lost fluency in reading and projecting body language, which creates massive opportunity for anyone who understands this gap. Think about it. How often do you practice reading facial expressions when half the faces you see are behind masks or compressed into small video squares? How often do you work on your posture when you spend 8 hours a day hunched over a laptop in your bedroom? How often do you practice confident walking when you rarely need to cross a room full of people who are watching you? Greene discovered that mastering physical presence now feels almost supernatural to people accustomed to digital interaction. When someone displays genuine confidence through their body language, standing with relaxed authority, making steady eye contact, moving with purposeful calm, it creates an impact that seems almost magical to others. Not because the techniques are complicated, but because they're so rare that they stand out dramatically against the backdrop of people who have forgotten how to inhabit their bodies confidently. The specific body language mistakes that reveal someone as terminally online versus confidently grounded in physical reality show up immediately in social situations. Terminally online people fidget constantly because they're used to having their hands busy with devices. They struggle with appropriate eye contact duration because they're accustomed to looking at screens rather than into human eyes. They stand too close or too far away because they've lost their sense of comfortable physical proximity. They gesture awkwardly because most of their communication happens through typing rather than full body expression. These people also display what researchers call digital posture even when they're not using devices. Shoulders rolled forward from hunching over screens, head tilted down as if looking at a phone, arms positioned as if typing even when their hands are empty. They've trained their bodies to assume screen-focused positions so consistently that these postures become their default even during in-person interactions. The contrast with someone who moves naturally through physical space is immediately obvious to everyone in the room. Masks during the pandemic fundamentally changed facial communication in ways that most people don't realize are still affecting them. For 2 years, we communicated primarily through eyes and forehead expressions, while the rest of our faces remained hidden. Eye contact skills deteriorated because people got used to looking at each other's eyes without the full context of facial expressions to guide interpretation. Many people still feel uncomfortable with complete facial visibility because they got accustomed to the partial anonymity that masks provided. The result is a generation of people who struggle with full-face communication. They don't know how to read subtle lip movements that indicate someone is about to speak. They miss the micro-expressions around the mouth that reveal genuine versus forced smiles. They can't interpret the complex interplay between eye expressions and lower facial movements that creates authentic emotional communication. When someone has maintained these skills through the digital age, their ability to read and respond to complete facial expressions seems almost telepathic. The specific physical presence techniques that create disproportionate impact in our screen-dominated world focus on reclaiming spatial awareness and authentic movement. First, practice occupying space confidently without apologizing for your physical presence. Most people have learned to minimize themselves to fit into video squares and small living spaces. When you expand back into full spatial confidence, people notice immediately. Stand with your feet shoulder-width apart. Let your arms hang naturally at your sides instead of crossing them defensively. Take up the space your body actually occupies instead of trying to disappear. Second, master the art of strategic stillness. In a world where everyone fidgets with devices and shifts nervously because they're not used to existing without digital stimulation, the person who can be completely still while remaining alert and engaged commands enormous presence. This isn't rigid military posture. It's relaxed confidence that doesn't need constant movement or stimulation to feel comfortable. Third, develop what Greene calls intentional proximity awareness. People have become uncomfortable with physical closeness because so much interaction happens through screens where personal space doesn't exist. Understanding how to approach others at comfortable distances, how to respect boundaries while still creating connection, and how to use spatial positioning to build rapport gives you massive advantages in social and professional situations. The psychology of physical space and proximity has shifted dramatically in a world where people became uncomfortable with closeness. Personal space bubbles expanded during social distancing, and many people never readjusted them back to normal ranges. Others overcompensate by standing too close because they're desperate for physical connection after years of digital interaction. Understanding how to calibrate appropriate proximity for different situations gives you significant advantages in building rapport and avoiding the discomfort that comes from spatial misjudgments. Specific body language tells that instantly communicate confidence and presence in any physical interaction center around three key areas. First, your relationship with gravity. Confident people appear grounded and stable rather than floating or unsteady. Second, your response to others' presence. Confident people acknowledge others without changing their own energy or posture defensively. Third, your comfort with your own attention. Confident people can be looked at without fidgeting, hiding, or performing. Master these three elements, and you'll stand out dramatically in any room full of people who have forgotten how to inhabit their bodies with authentic presence. But physical presence is only part of the equation in 2025. Your digital presence has become equally important, and most people are approaching it completely wrong. The content creator power game. Everyone has become a content creator whether they want to be or not. Your digital footprint determines job opportunities, romantic prospects, and social status more than your resume or physical appearance ever did. That LinkedIn post you shared last month, the comment you left on someone's Instagram, the way you present yourself in Zoom meetings, all of it gets catalogued and judged by algorithms and humans alike. This shift happens so gradually that most people didn't notice they were being forced into a game they never agreed to play. Greene's power principles expose how most people approach content creation backwards. They chase viral moments instead of building lasting influence. They perform for algorithms instead of connecting with humans. They measure success through vanity metrics instead of real-world impact. The result is creators who feel powerful online but remain powerless in actual life situations. They have millions of followers but can't negotiate a raise. They create viral content but struggle with basic human conversations. The psychology behind viral content reveals why some creators command genuine respect, while others just get views and mockery. Viral content exploits emotional reactions, outrage, envy, schadenfreude, or tribal validation. It gets shared because it triggers immediate responses, not because it provides lasting value. Creators who build careers on viral moments become addicted to increasingly extreme content to maintain attention. They lose their authentic voice, chasing whatever the algorithm rewards today, knowing it will change tomorrow. Compare this to creators who command actual influence. They build audiences around consistent value delivery rather than emotional manipulation. Their content might not always go viral, but it creates deeper connections with people who actually care about their perspective. These creators get speaking opportunities, book deals, and business partnerships because brands recognize the difference between engaged audiences and mere view counts. They understand that influence means people trust your judgment enough to change their behavior, not just hit the like button. The difference between influence and fame in the creator economy determines whether your online presence opens real opportunities or just feeds your ego. Fame means people recognize your face and know your content. Influence means people value your opinion and trust your recommendations. Famous creators often struggle to monetize their audiences because fame doesn't translate to purchasing decisions. Influential creators with smaller audiences often earn more money because their followers actually act on their suggestions. Most people chase fame because it feels more immediate and measurable. Getting 1 million views provides instant validation that seems more significant than slowly building a community of engaged followers. But fame without influence creates a trap where you need constant content production to maintain relevance. Stop posting for a week and your audience moves on to the next viral sensation. Influence builds compound returns where your earlier work continues creating value and opportunities years later. Different platforms create entirely different power dynamics that most creators don't understand. LinkedIn authority comes from demonstrating professional expertise and industry knowledge. Your content needs to make other professionals look smart when they share it with their networks. The algorithm rewards posts that generate meaningful business discussions rather than simple likes. Success on LinkedIn translates to real-world career advancement, speaking opportunities, and professional relationships. TikTok influence operates through entertainment value and cultural relevance. The platform focuses on promoting new content from upstart creators rather than serving videos by already famous ones to subscribed fans. This creates opportunities for unknown creators to build massive audiences quickly, but it also means your success depends entirely on algorithmic favor. TikTok influence rarely translates to other platforms or real-world opportunities unless you convert it strategically. Instagram centers around lifestyle aspiration and aesthetic inspiration. Success comes from creating content that makes people wish they had your life while simultaneously providing them with actionable ways to improve their own. The platform rewards consistent visual quality and authentic personality more than viral moments. Instagram influence translates well to product partnerships and business opportunities because the audience is primed for purchasing decisions. The trap of algorithmic validation creates weak, dependent creators instead of powerful ones. When your self-worth depends on engagement metrics that change based on factors completely outside your control, you lose the ability to create authentic content. You start optimizing for the algorithm rather than serving your audience. Every post becomes a desperate attempt to trigger the engagement patterns that brought success previously. This creates a cycle where you lose touch with your genuine interests and perspectives while chasing metrics that may disappear overnight when platforms change their algorithms. Strategic withdrawal in content creation means understanding when not posting is more powerful than posting. Most creators believe consistency requires daily content production, but this approach often dilutes their message and exhausts their creativity. Taking strategic breaks allows your audience to miss you while giving you time to develop higher quality content. It also prevents you from posting desperate filler content that damages your brand when you have nothing valuable to say. This principle works because scarcity creates value. When someone posts constantly, each individual post feels less important. When they post selectively, people pay more attention to each piece of content. Strategic withdrawal also protects you from the burnout that destroys many creators who try to maintain unsustainable posting schedules. The most successful creators understand that their audience would rather wait for quality content than receive mediocre content daily. The specific content strategy that builds genuine influence focuses on solving real problems for a specific audience rather than entertaining the masses. Instead of creating content that anyone might engage with, you create content that deeply serves people who share your values and interests. This approach builds smaller but more valuable audiences who trust your judgment and act on your recommendations. Your content becomes a filter that attracts the right people and repels the wrong ones, creating opportunities for meaningful relationships and business partnerships that go far beyond social media metrics. But mastering your public digital presence is only half the battle. The real test of influence happens in private professional interactions where the stakes are highest and the audience is smallest. Seducing your boss through a screen. Virtual negotiations determine your financial future, whether you master them or not. Asking for a raise over Zoom feels impossible when you're sitting in your bedroom staring at your boss through a screen while your dog barks in the background. The whole situation feels ridiculous and powerless, but these moments require influence skills more than ever. Building workplace influence through video calls and Slack messages demands completely different approaches than traditional office environments. In physical offices, you could build rapport through casual hallway conversations, demonstrate competence through your workspace organization, and establish authority through your physical presence in meetings. Now you're reduced to a small video square competing for attention with everyone else's small video squares. Your influence depends entirely on what you can communicate through limited digital channels. Traditional office politics relied on physical proximity, informal relationship building, and the subtle power dynamics of shared spaces. You could grab coffee with your boss, stay late to show dedication, or position yourself strategically in conference rooms to appear more engaged and important. These tactics don't translate to remote work because the fundamental dynamics have changed. Your boss sees you for scheduled meetings and evaluates your work through digital deliverables. The informal relationship building that created career advancement opportunities simply doesn't exist in most remote environments. Authority in remote settings comes from consistent reliability rather than charismatic presence. When your boss can't see you working, they judge your competence based on whether you deliver what you promise when you promise it. This creates opportunities for people who excel at project management and clear communication, even if they wouldn't naturally stand out in traditional office environments. Building authority with superiors who only see you in small video squares means mastering the psychological impact of virtual presence. Your camera angle affects whether you appear confident or submissive. Your background communicates professionalism or chaos. Your audio quality determines whether people take you seriously or get distracted by technical problems. These details matter more in virtual meetings because they're often the only information your boss has about your competence and attention to detail. Virtual power dynamics shift dramatically when everyone's working from their own homes. Traditional hierarchies feel less concrete when your CEO appears in the same sized video square as the newest intern. Everyone's dealing with similar technical challenges, home environment distractions, and the awkwardness of video communication. This leveling effect creates opportunities to build more direct relationships with senior leadership, but it also means you need different strategies to distinguish yourself from your peers. Your boss sitting in their living room doesn't automatically command the same authority they would in a corner office. The environmental cues that traditionally reinforced hierarchy are gone. This creates space for employees who understand virtual communication to build influence more quickly than would be possible in traditional office settings. The key is recognizing these opportunities and adapting your communication style to take advantage of the changed dynamics. Strategic visibility in remote work requires careful balance between staying top of mind and becoming annoying. In physical offices, visibility meant being seen at your desk, participating in meetings, and having casual interactions throughout the day. Remote visibility happens through deliberate communication and strategic participation in digital channels. You need to contribute meaningfully to Slack conversations without dominating them. You need to send updates that demonstrate progress without seeming like you're seeking constant validation. The art involves timing your communications to coincide with your boss's attention patterns. Some managers check email first thing in the morning, others review messages at the end of the day. Understanding when your boss is most receptive to communication allows you to time your requests and updates for maximum impact. This requires observation and experimentation to determine what works with your specific manager's habits and preferences. Communication techniques that create influence through digital channels focus on clarity, anticipation, and value delivery. Email subject lines become crucial because they determine whether your messages get opened immediately or buried in an inbox. Your ability to anticipate questions and provide complete information in initial communications demonstrates competence and saves your boss time. Following up appropriately without being pushy shows reliability while keeping important issues visible. Slack communication requires different skills than email because the format encourages more casual interaction. Understanding when to respond immediately versus when to take time for thoughtful responses affects how people perceive your availability and judgment. Using threads appropriately, tagging people strategically, and contributing to conversations in ways that add value rather than just visibility all influence how colleagues and superiors view your professional competence. Reading virtual social cues from bosses and colleagues requires attention to different signals than in-person communication provided. Response time patterns reveal priority levels and emotional states. Message length and formality indicate how someone is feeling about specific topics or requests. Video call behavior shows engagement levels and comfort with different subjects. Understanding these digital body language signals helps you calibrate your communication approach for maximum effectiveness. Building personal connections that lead to career advancement without sharing physical space requires intentional effort to create relationship opportunities. This might involve volunteering for cross-functional projects that increase your visibility with different leaders. Participating in virtual social events, even when they feel awkward, keeps you connected to informal networks that influence career opportunities. Offering help to colleagues during challenging projects builds goodwill that often gets mentioned to managers. The virtual influence technique that makes bosses think of you first for promotions involves strategic value anticipation. Instead of waiting for instructions or reacting to problems, you identify challenges your boss faces and address them proactively. You send relevant industry articles before meetings. You prepare solutions to problems before they're officially assigned to you. You anticipate resource needs for upcoming projects and make suggestions before being asked. This technique works because it demonstrates strategic thinking while making your boss's job easier. When promotion opportunities arise, they naturally think of people who have consistently provided value without being micromanaged. You become associated with solutions rather than problems, with initiative rather than just execution. But mastering these influence techniques comes with responsibilities that most people never consider. The shadow side of digital influence. Power without ethics becomes manipulation, and the digital age has made sophisticated manipulation easier than ever before. Every scroll through your social media feed exposes you to psychological tactics designed to change your behavior without your conscious awareness. Every targeted ad uses data about your vulnerabilities to push you toward purchasing decisions. Every piece of content you consume has been optimized to trigger specific emotional responses that benefit someone else's agenda. Greene warned about the dark applications of power principles in the digital age long before most people understood how serious this problem would become. The same techniques that build genuine influence and healthy relationships become weapons when used by people who don't care about your well-being. Influencer manipulation operates through carefully crafted parasocial relationships, where followers feel personally connected to people who view them as revenue streams. Political propaganda exploits tribal identity and confirmation bias to push voters toward decisions that serve power structures rather than public interest. Social media algorithms amplify manipulative techniques by learning exactly which psychological buttons trigger your engagement. The algorithm knows you're more likely to watch videos when you're feeling lonely, so it serves content that exploits that emotional state. It recognizes you make impulse purchases when you're stressed, so it shows you shopping content during difficult periods. It understands you're vulnerable to political messaging when you're angry, so it feeds you content designed to maintain that anger and direct it towards specific targets. These algorithms create personalized manipulation campaigns that would have been impossible before digital technology existed. Traditional advertising had to appeal to broad demographics because it couldn't target individuals precisely. Now every person gets a customized influence strategy based on their browsing history, purchasing patterns, social connections, and even the times of day they're most emotionally vulnerable. The manipulation becomes so personalized that it feels like natural preference and authentic choice. People get seduced into buying things they don't need through techniques that exploit cognitive biases and emotional vulnerabilities. Limited time offers create artificial urgency that bypasses rational decision-making. Social proof manipulation shows fake reviews and inflated popularity metrics to trigger herd mentality. Authority exploitation uses fake experts and paid endorsements to create trust where none should exist. Scarcity marketing fabricates shortage to make ordinary products seem precious and necessary. The psychological manipulation goes deeper than product sales. People get convinced to believe ideas that serve corporate or political interests rather than truth. Echo chambers reinforced by algorithmic content curation prevent exposure to challenging perspectives. Confirmation bias gets weaponized through targeted content that makes people feel smart for believing predetermined conclusions. Emotional reasoning gets triggered through content designed to make people angry, fearful, or outraged about issues they don't fully understand. Digital manipulation works more effectively than in-person influence because screens create psychological distance that reduces critical thinking. You feel safer behind a screen, so you lower your defensive barriers. The curated nature of digital content makes everything seem more legitimate and authoritative than it actually is. The speed of digital consumption prevents the slower, deeper thinking that reveals manipulation tactics. The addictive nature of digital platforms keeps you in states of partial attention, where sophisticated influence techniques slip past your conscious awareness. The warning signs that someone is using advanced influence techniques on you appear in relationships, business dealings, and content consumption patterns. Relationship manipulation involves love bombing followed by strategic withdrawal, creating addiction-like attachment patterns. Business manipulation uses false urgency, artificial scarcity, and social proof fabrication to pressure decisions. Content manipulation keeps you consuming through variable reward schedules and emotional triggering that creates compulsive engagement. You should be suspicious when someone creates artificial time pressure around important decisions. Real opportunities rarely require immediate commitment without time for consideration. You should notice when someone isolates you from other perspectives or discourages you from seeking outside opinions. Legitimate influences encourage you to gather information and make informed choices. You should be alert when someone promises unrealistic outcomes or claims to have exclusive access to special knowledge or opportunities. Understanding these principles creates ethical responsibility to use them for mutual benefit rather than exploitation. Ethical influence involves transparency about your intentions and honest representation of outcomes. It means respecting other people's autonomy and right to make informed decisions. It requires avoiding tactics that exploit psychological vulnerabilities or bypass rational thinking. Ethical influence builds trust through consistency between your stated values and actual behavior. Remote work creates specific vulnerabilities because isolation reduces social feedback that normally helps people recognize manipulation. Social media addiction makes people more susceptible to influence because constant stimulation reduces attention span and critical thinking capacity. Digital isolation creates emotional vulnerabilities that manipulative content exploits through false promises of connection and belonging. Working from home means fewer casual conversations with colleagues who might offer different perspectives on workplace situations. Social media feeds become primary sources of information about current events, social trends, and even personal relationships. Digital isolation makes people desperate for connection, which manipulative influences exploit by offering fake intimacy and manufactured community belonging. Maintaining your authentic values while navigating sophisticated influence attempts requires developing strong mental frameworks for recognizing and resisting manipulation. This involves understanding your own psychological vulnerabilities and the situations where you're most susceptible to influence. It means cultivating diverse information sources and actively seeking perspectives that challenge your existing beliefs. It requires developing patience with decision-making and resistance to artificial urgency tactics. The specific mental framework that protects you from manipulation while allowing ethical influence involves what Greene would call conscious discernment. You learn to distinguish between influence that serves mutual benefit and manipulation that serves only the influencer's interests. You develop the ability to recognize when someone is appealing to your rational thinking versus exploiting your emotional vulnerabilities. You maintain awareness of your own decision-making process and notice when outside forces are trying to bypass your conscious judgment. This framework requires regular digital detox periods that restore your ability to think clearly without constant stimulation. It involves seeking feedback from trusted people who aren't influenced by the same algorithmic feeds and targeted content you consume. It means developing comfort with uncertainty and resistance to people who claim to have all the answers or exclusive access to truth. Most importantly, it requires maintaining connection to your authentic values and using those as a filter for evaluating the influence attempts you encounter daily. But recognizing manipulation is only the beginning. The real challenge is learning to be genuinely yourself in a world that rewards performance over authenticity. Greene's recovery revealed something profound about influence that changes everything. Real power in 2025 comes from being genuinely present in a world that's forgotten how to be authentic. While everyone performs for algorithms and optimizes their digital personas, the people who command actual influence are those who show up as themselves. His stroke taught him that losing everything reveals what actually matters in human connection. Not your achievements or status symbols, but your ability to be present with another person without pretense or performance. In your next video call, try this. Look directly into the camera lens when you speak and let silence pass before responding to questions. That's where real influence begins.